Tech Goes Home. We work in the Boston area and we help give digital skills and we do train-to-trainer programs to different various nonprofits so that we can employ them to become instructors and integrate digital skills training in what they do. So for example, if they are a nonprofit and they're working as an ESL, we teach them the digital skills so they could teach their learners the digital skills to match up with their curriculum. And so 4 of the different components that we believe is the core curriculum is stuff like knowing email, knowing how to operate your device, media literacy, like how to search online, as well as like video chat. And sometimes people would think like, oh, that's a very basic core curriculum, but it builds up into everything. You can't log into anything without typing your email or learning about password security.
Welcome to Unpacked Culture Chronicles. I'm Danielle Marshall, an equity strategist and executive coach, and I'm thrilled to have you here. This podcast is all about exploring cultural differences, similarities, and the ways that we can begin to bridge across them. Together, we're going to dive into meaningful conversations with guests from all walks of life. We'll share stories, insights, and practical strategies for navigating the complexity of culture in our workplaces, communities, and personal lives. I'm excited to welcome our guest today, Dr. Mariette Ayala. We first had the pleasure of connecting on LinkedIn, and in our first conversation, I left feeling really inspired and hopeful about what infusing cultural understanding into work could actually look like, with an intentional focus, because that part is really important. I'm going to let Dr. Mariette share more about her background in just a moment, but for now, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Hello, I am so excited to talk to you too. It was very mutual when I met Danielle. I was definitely fangirling. I was like, this woman is amazing. She's a powerhouse. And I was so excited that we're able to bridge the gap between Baltimore and Massachusetts, and super excited about the work that we do together. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Boston my entire life and proper Boston. And then as I started to grow up and after I pursued my education, as most people realize, sometimes a city that you love and you grow up in, you can't afford to live in because of the cost of living increasing. So now I can see Boston from my window, but that's it.
I hear you. As a native New Yorker, I feel the same. I love my city,
Oh,
and good Lord on those prices.
oh, so you understand the pain. Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
um, growing up in Boston inspired me so much because I was able to learn and take hold of so many opportunities. And that is because my mother sent me after anything. Started working when I was 12 as a young leader, then a peer leader, then junior staff member. And opportunities through the city and the Boys and Girls Club allowed me to grow and explore the world as a young scholar. So I can't wait to talk about many different avenues of that with you today.
Wonderful. I'm just really excited to jump in. So when we first met, one of the first things that you told me about was working in a digital equity office, right? And so I'm kind of wondering like what those dynamics are in that office, how they shape your perspective on equity, like all the things. Just tell us all the things.
So one fun fact is when I was in high school, my mother brought home our first computer. And
Yeah.
it was actually through my organization that I work for now, which is Tech Goes Home.
Oh, wow.
And for me, it was pivotal because it got to a place where I was like, am I smart? I don't know if I'm smart. I don't know how to access the world. And what was very interesting is that any books that I had were books that were like free and no books that I chose for myself.
Hmm.
And so getting access to a computer and internet and knowledge was the first step of me exploring myself. And so my mother took a digital skills course. As a result, they gave her a computer and it came home and then I was able to start my AP classes. You cannot take AP without doing the summer work before that. And so I was able to enter my AP classes. Me and my sister was in exam schools, and 3 of us was born back to back. So we were like freshman, sophomore, senior. And we got our computer. My first sister went to college without a computer, which is crazy to think about now. My second
Mhm.
sister ended up getting a computer, like, halfway through college with, like, a credit card, like, and then, like, I was able to bring that computer to school, even though it wasn't the best condition, but, I think that that was important, and now working in a digital equity office, I ended up studying, for my dissertation, communication technology and family engagement, and the impact that they have on each other, and so, now working in that digital equity space where I'm able to be a practitioner, researcher, um, and creating curriculum in the same space is kind of like full circle. So
Mhm.
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate working for org that for 25 years has been serving the greater Boston community and Detroit, which is has
Okay.
been a development the last year and a half.
I love that backstory on this because I think what is so interesting to me, I was that kid who went to college without a computer. Now, to be
Yeah.
fair, my mother bought me a brand new word processor. So I guess I'm dating myself, but like I thought I was fancy because I could type and, it would print out on the little screen, but it wasn't a computer. But I think what you're talking about is including the books that you had access to, right? Like what are
Yeah.
we in some cases providing our kids, what are we able to provide our kids, right? That opens the world to different people. And so I love that you're having this full circle moment where the very agency that gave your mom the computer to begin with is now the one that you work with. That's amazing.
Yeah, and check us out. I have my mother stopped at high school, and she got certifications after, but my father stopped at middle school, and I was able to go straight through to the doctorate, and my sister's an accountant, my other sister's a social worker and work in family planning and a doula, and it's just like, wow, we became 3 bad mama jammas, but, you
Indeed.
know, sometimes you
So
have to really take that first step in order to give people access to the things that they could grow into.
yeah. So on that note, why don't you tell us a little bit, tell us again the name of your organization, but also just what you all do.
Tech Goes Home. We work in the Boston area and we help give digital skills and we do train to trainer programs to different various nonprofits so that we can employ them to become instructors and integrate digital skills training in what they do. So, for example, if they are a nonprofit and they're working as an ESL, we teach them the digital skills so they could teach their learners the digital skills to match up with their curriculum. And so, 4 of the different components that we believe is the core curriculum is stuff like knowing email, knowing how to operate your device, media literacy, like how to search online, as well as like video chat. And sometimes people would think like, oh, that's a very basic core curriculum, but it builds up into everything. You can't log into anything without typing your email or
Mhm.
learning about password security and cybersecurity. Um, and if you don't know how to use different functions of like Google Meet or Zoom, it's very hard for you to have the telehealth appointments that you need access to, so
Yeah. I so appreciate that. I know I had mentioned to you as we were getting ready that I had recently gone through a digital equity, like a training slash
stimulation.
simulation, and it was put on by our local library. And I happen to sit on, I want to be transparent with listeners, I sit on the library's foundation board. And so we were able to go to this simulation. And now I'm somebody who, for the most part, I consider myself pretty tech savvy. I keep up with like the modern updates. But in this simulation, we were asked to take on the persona of someone who does not necessarily have that digital literacy that you're talking about. And so the person I was assigned, like, this is a mom. She was a hotel worker. She was only making $20,000 a year, but she's trying
Yeah,
to get a better job. But she doesn't have internet access at home. And she has some tech skills, but not, as many as she needed. And even I felt the frustration as I was going through that process. I'm like, I can't do things like put in job applications without going to the library because I don't have a computer at home in this case, or, she needed to file a housing complaint. How do I do this? Where do I look? And so much became, and I consider myself pretty thoughtful about like the experiences that people have. But as I was navigating that, I realized like how difficult this is. And quite frankly, how other people treated you because I didn't have in that moment the same level. They're like, well, just get on the computer and fill out this form. And I'm like, but how do I use the mouse? Right. And so I think the work that you're doing is so critical because you're working with young people, you're working with adults, like the whole range, and that just changes family dynamics.
Yeah, we're working with ranges 3 to 99, and what was so interesting about what you said is I had a learner give feedback this past, like, maybe, like, 7 months ago, and they was like, "Thank you for the modules, and thank you for teaching me how to use the device, but I don't know how to use the trackpad, the mouse,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
keyboard," and then I went back and then made additional modules to help support that when learning how to use their device. Um, but you're so right. That was such a real like, as you explained that, that was I imagine my family, I imagine my mom, I imagine,
Yeah.
my neighbors. This is a very real thing, and when you said how people treat you, just because you got to the library doesn't mean someone's gonna help you,
Yeah.
and it's great when, people are able to, but sometimes they don't even have the capacity, right? So you come to the circulation desk, and they're managing 4 other people. They don't have 20 minutes to get you
Yes.
through what
Yes.
you need to, and so this work is so important because, um, once they have those core digital skills, we love, to see people then going further, like, opened up our portal this year. We launched in April, and we put all of our core competencies on there. And we started off with 4 modules. It was the same 4 modules for like the last 20 years. And now we have over 90 modules.
Wow.
And what's so interesting is to see how people will start with the core competencies and then they'll just feather out and then they'll start to learn so much more, whether it's like with AI literacy, whether it's digital health, professional development, project management, they start to enter these other modules and um, it's not assigned to them. It's not a requirement. But then they're just like, wait, kind of like that feeling I had when I was like, I could direct my knowledge. I could find my educational path. I can become a
Yeah.
scholar. They're like, okay. They're
Yeah.
they're
You
they're
begin to
starting
see
their
the
learning
world
journey.
differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in addition, so first off, congratulations on updating all those competence because that's a lot that you've now brought forward. But in addition to like having all these various competence, I know that culture factors into pretty much everything that you're doing as well. So what does that mean to you, and like how do you bring that to life in your curriculum design, your teaching?
I'm so glad that you brought that up because I sometimes as you did your stimulation, I have these personas in my head that I try to access the portal in different ways. And I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
I first get on and I'm like, great, I'm here, but what if I'm multilingual? What if I know multiple languages and my literacy rate is low? What happens there? Um, and so oftentimes, because I grew up helping my mom so much, I'd be like, "Can your mom do this? Start over." Like so that's what I do. I just think about like my culture. I think about the different languages that of the different people that we serve and
Hmm.
all of our curriculum used to be just available in English and very little in Chinese, but now it's available in the 9 main languages of the people we serve, like Arabic, Hindi, Chinese, Vietnamese, Portuguese. We have a big Brazilian community here. We have a big Cape Verdean community here, Haitian Creole, Spanish. We just want to make sure that and people are able to toggle, read, study, and be able to go back and forth interchangeably between the languages that they feel comfortable with.
Yeah. I love that, and I'm gonna sort of interject because one of the things that I've heard from clients in the past, like when I'm doing my equity work, is they're like, "Oh, well, we would love to have different languages, but we don't know where to start. It feels overwhelming. We have, like you said, 9 different languages that are spoken in our community." And the thing that I try to impress upon them, and I do want to get your thoughts on this, is you don't have to do everything all at once.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is literally identifying maybe there's a second language that is most prevalent in your community. Start there and then continue to work out until you capture as many languages as possible. But how do you all handle that?
So some in the past we've like translated. We've taught them how learners how to translate their browser, whether they were using like Safari, Firefox, Chrome. That tends to be a good step. But kind of like what you said, when it came to our annual survey, it was only available in English and Spanish and Haitian Creole, but now it's also available in like Arabic, and I think that they're adding an additional one as well. And it also is like appropriate for the community that you're serving. If you're trying to gather pre and post data about the confidence level or the different ways that people are accessing technology now that they have digital skills, it's so important for them to be able to answer the questions in the language that they feel comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gosh, there's so many things I could say about that. I well done on that because I feel like it is absolutely tied to economic mobility, everyday life for people. And what changes maybe are you seeing in the clients that you get to work with? What's new for them because of these skills?
So for sure, with economic mobility, that is major. So many have reported that they've been able to now access telehealth, or they're able to learn how to do online banking. They've learned how to pay bills online, how to grocery shop online, how to refill prescriptions and medications. Um, and to have over 90% of our learners say this, it's an absolute beautiful thing. We always gather student educational outcomes or digital skills outcomes from our learners, and 73% reported that they now have skills to access health and wellness information. 75% reported that they can now access city and local resources. And this led me this year to create even a module on how to register to vote. Because when you think about um, the fact that many people, like, once they finally do learn and have access to the skills, they're trying to get access to additional information, and before, they weren't able to access those resources in the past,
Sure.
um, especially in the language that they are comfortable in. 79%, now feel like they have skills to do their own online research, or word processing or creating presentations. 81% got a better job, a pay raise, or entered a work training or new education program, or even started a business. But one of the biggest things is 94% of the graduates attributed their achievement to the digital skills course, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, on the other side of that, with just digital skill outcomes, um, 71% furthered their education, 80% of caregivers were able to get more involved in their children's education, 88% were able to use their device to help their children with their learning multiple times a week, and 100% of the learners that were school age were able to do their schoolwork online due to the
Wow.
digital skills training.
So that's amazing because you've touched on so many facets of like the world and the
So
lives that
many.
we live every day, from education, whether that be the parents' education or in order to support their kids, to the kids being able to do these things themselves, to healthcare, to our civic duty. How do I vote? Where do I vote? Right? All of the things that for those of us that are regular internet users and computer users, like we don't even think about. Like I kind of tease my mom all the time. I'm just like, just Google it if you can't figure it out. But as I'm listening to you, I'm like, maybe I even need to be a little bit more patient because with seniors, right? For seniors also, like many of them have had access to computers over the years, but technology has changed so much. What they're trying to do may not be the initial word processing, skill that they might have needed back in the day. And so there's just so much to learn there. And as I'm saying this about like technology changing, I am curious your thoughts about AI and, how you guide people to use it. How do they know what's trustworthy, what isn't? Like, what does that look like? There's so much there.
Yeah, AI literacy is huge, and it's a complete new dimension that is for sure buzzworthy. I knew right away when I was applying for the job a year and a half ago that we were going to have to start to create some AI literacy curriculum. And some people give us pushback. They're just like,
Hmm.
AI is intuitive. Like they think Like, an iPhone's intuitive, and you could pick it up and you could just eventually learn. But learning how to cope with technology and
Yeah.
cope with AI is different from being like that master prompter that's giving it a direction that is not fully taking all of the output and being like, yeah, the output is truth. You're like, no, it might have been hallucinating. You could literally reply to AI from a prompt and say, like, how confident are you in your answer? And it'll be like, actually, like, I'm like,
I'm
give me a
not.
percentage. And they'll be like, actually, like 73%, to be honest with you. I was just pulling your leg. And I'm like, what?
I appreciate that because I have actually told ChatGPT before, I was like, "You're biased in your response." And it responded. He goes, "Oh, you might be right." No, I know I'm right in this case, but I do think that is the other piece about AI is that you still have to know what you're talking about, or else you can accept everything as fact because you don't know better,
And
right? And
that's
the
a big part of our
hallucinations are real.
yes, that's a big part of our media literacy training. So we do teach them about prompting. We do teach them about how to even create their own AI agents or what's a LLM and like the different modules that they could be using, or like we try to emphasize that it's not just one platform, but it's
Yeah.
everywhere. And then we also have a ethics module on AI that we have in towards in the level one so that
Mhm.
they could learn and understand and know about um there's two sides of it. Ethics of how you use it and ethics of how it can be used against you. Whether that's when people are trying to diagnose you and give you your medical information, or the idea that now when people are hiring you, it's a computer that's even identifying if you could even step into the door, or
Yeah.
even if you could an employer can see your application, which is why it's still important to me till this day to go through every single application, even if I give it like 2-minute scan to be like, wait, why wasn't this considered?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up because there are obviously I'm hearing a lot more about like the ethical how we use it, but this idea that other people are also actors in this moment is important for us to understand as well because we are both influencing the AI systems, but we're being influenced by them as well in terms of what outcomes we have in life.
It's interesting for me to be as like a researcher and practitioner married to an engineer. It's very, very interesting because he's actively using AI in his role as a software engineer. But so he's able to pick up so much more and he has a different lens. Sometimes he'll look at it and he will be like he uses AI as a thought partner instead of a
Yes.
knowledge giver.
Yes.
And so I think that that's the most important thing. Like, AI is your new pet dog, a drunk intern, and you got to you get out of it what you put into it, right?
I've
So
never heard that description before, but I might keep that one.
you have to train it up
Yeah,
to
you have to
understand
feed it, you have
you.
to train it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so sometimes, like, my husband provides feedback actively, um, to any AI LLMs that he use in order to, um make sure that he continues to have a good thought partner. I believe it can increase capacity for the work that you do, but it's very important to use it cautiously.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Let me circle back to something that we were talking about a moment ago. So you mentioned that you've created these modules in different languages. Have you done work around the blind or deaf communities?
Yes, we do. And what we've learned is that they need different devices in order to operate. So that's why before we only had like know your device, but understanding that the blind and deaf community, it's more accessible for them to use iPads or iPhones because of the usability and user interface is better for them. So we've developed modules on like um, how to use your iPad in that sense. In addition to that, some of the accommodations that we've made for the blind and deaf community has been similar to the accommodations that has been needed for for the senior citizens or even people with low literacy. So sometimes because of like universal design, you can make an accommodation for one group, but it helps so many more. So sometimes it's just like how much content is on the page. Is there a audio button so if someone can press play and it could read it to them? So we're integrating that as well, and more interaction as well. So like more video, more audio accessibility, working on font sizes and the actual device that we would
Yeah. And
recommend.
for listeners who are not familiar with universal design, talk a little bit about what that means from your perspective.
From my perspective, it's this idea. There's whole books on it, but from my perspective, what is always at like the front of my head is um, making something accessible to one person helps everybody. And the most simplest way I could think of it is if you were in the classroom, I used to work for disability support services, and sometimes it would be as simple as like writing a guide to note taking or note taking for someone or proctoring an exam or something like that, right? Um, if I give extra time to one student, everybody could benefit from that extra time. If I take notes for one student and do it very well, everyone could use that as a study guide. If I could, if I provide a recording of all my lectures and PowerPoints, and on top of it, if I provide it all 3 weeks before the class, so for people who need to review and need extra time, helps all the students.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think
Yeah.
this is a beautiful example for me about like how equity also stands to help everyone, because
Yes.
we might be designing this for an individual in this case because they're the most marginalized person in that moment, right? They don't have a particular skill set. They're learning this digital literacy, but as we build that for them, we then raise sort of for everyone else, to your point, like I give everyone in the class the PowerPoint. Everyone gets the study notes, which means now we all benefit from it.
Yes.
So I love that. This episode of Unpacked Culture Chronicles is brought to you by Culture Principles, a coaching and consulting practice helping people build real inclusion from the inside out. Because inclusion isn't just about policies, it's also about our people. And while strong policies matter, it's cultural awareness that brings them to life. Our cultural competency coaching program supports leaders, team members, and change makers alike in showing up with greater clarity, confidence, and care. To learn more, visit us at culture-principles.com/coaching. We'd love to work with you. So tell me, like, let's get a little bit more personal in our conversation now, because I
I
think,
love that.
yes, your story is just so rich for me. I'm curious from your perspective, like how your identity influences the way that you design today. Tell me more about what that looks like.
Um, my when I growing up, it was very interesting to me because, um, I grew up speaking Haitian Creole. And my mother always wanted me to fully understand who I was and my culture. And sometimes the delivery was not always sweet, but it always got to the point. So my mother would say, remember, at the end of the day, you represent yourself, your church, your community, your family. And when you step out that door, you're a Black woman. Like that's what it is. And so she's like, "It's important for you to understand your food, your mother tongue," even when it came to dance. My mother wasn't gonna put me in no jazz, tap, ballet. She was like, "No, no, 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 no. You're going to take Haitian cultural dance, you're gonna learn Haitian cultural folk dance," and here I was, 4 years old, learning different dance movements, and then when my dance instructor would be like, "This is why you have to move this way." When I tell you to go low, it's because this was mimicking when the slaves was going through the bushes and trying to escape. So,
Mm.
like, it might just look like a fancy dance to you, but this is why it has to be this way. And so it impacted so much. I did Haitian folk dance for 10 years. I told you I still can't dance. But like, I can like, I've learned how to work with a community in that sense, like, when my mother put me in choir, I can't sing, but I could travel and stay in tune. I could make
I
sure
hear
I'm
you.
in unison, I could make sure I'm at my note, and if I can't, I better drop and start m mouthing the words like, "Watermelon, watermelon, marshmallow." Like, you learn how to move as a unit, and that's a big part of the Haitian community too. You learn how to move as a community,
Yeah.
and that's what I do in my work. It impacts everything I do, and it it gives me reasoning. Like, when I was working with our digital health modules, I'm currently working with doctors in the hospital that I was born in. I'm like, could you imagine? My mother probably couldn't even talk to the doctors, um, in a way that she would want to advocate for her health, and now I'm creating modules for that same hospital
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Full
that
circle.
full circle, so that people can learn how to navigate telehealth and digital health and even mental health, in the language that they're comfortable in. So,
Hmm.
I know that that was, like, full, but it was just the idea of, like, that community aspect and cultural aspect for me.
Yeah, I love that, and I also can appreciate how difficult it is. Like, I grew up in a community and a culture where we're also sort of collectivists, right? So we're thinking
Yes.
about what the group needs overall before the individual. And I know how hard it is to sort of navigate that tension in the States where we're so focused on, like, individual success, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like, so how did you navigate around that? Because I feel like I still feel the tension today.
Something that I've kept in my resume from, like, 10 years ago is I don't think that growth exists unless people are growing beside you. Sometimes
Mhm.
people say, like when there is a instructor in a classroom or a teacher in a classroom, your lowest student is really a reflection of you. Like, how your lowest performing student is a reflection of how well you're doing, or, um, if others aren't growing beside you or they're not flourishing along with you, it's not real growth. Like,
Yeah.
flowers don't grow with one rose petal, they grow in a full bloom collectively.
That is a beautiful analogy to keep, yeah, at the front of my mind because you're absolutely right. I love that. So, taking this flower analogy, let us branch off into something else that you shared, which I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So beyond curriculum design, you've mentioned that art plays a big role in your life, like how you express your faith, how you connect with community. So now I'm curious again, like how that creativity shows up in your life, whether it's work or relationships.
So, we were just talking about this flower analogy, and we were just talking about, my painting and artistry, and this is a big, um, example of that. So, in this painting right here, this is the white flower that the woman is holding represents how I would idolize, um, white presenting woman. So, my mother, even though she was born fully raised in Haiti, she definitely has white skin tone and European hair, and I would idolize that, and I would just think like, why can't I look like you? Why can't I be lighter? Why can't I have hair like you? And as you can see in the afro of the woman, that flower is not only in there, but so much more. And
Yeah.
that represented me accepting like my identity and how beautiful I was because I was not just my mom, she was within me, but I could accept all the other different pieces that made me who I am. And this is an example of how I use art. I use art to start conversations, to bring people together, to speak about
Mhm.
either even if it's like colorism in community or women in community or how people believe beauty is presented, how equity is presented. I love to paint different pieces in order to talk about those things.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that because I'm sitting here and my first reaction is it's a beautiful piece of art to begin with, but to hear the narrative behind it. Right? I think that's so powerful because where you're taking us is on a journey basically of how you were both raised, what you process, internalize, but also your growth journey.
Yeah.
Um, and I think
I've
about that for so many of us, but like many of us may not have the skills per se to paint it out, but like what could we use art or any other device for that matter to like really bring to life and to get familiar with our own stories because you clearly were intentional and very reflective as part of this process.
Yeah, there was so much because even the dark skin tone in the hand is literally the color of my father.
Mm.
And the upper half of her face is my skin tone, and the bottom half still of her neck still shows like, okay, like, I'm part of my father, I'm part of my mother, and it's all coming together to form who I am.
My heart is swelling right now. I just want you to know that. Oh my gosh, I mean, it's absolutely stunning. But again, your words are adding a whole nother layer texture to this work of art. So thank you for that.
No problem. I think it brings people together. I think art is healing. I think it's one of the first ways that I started to communicate with my son, my beautiful 5-year-old boy. He's an autistic boy, and he writes to communicate right now. He has many words, and he's exploring his words and how the words come together. Um, but the very first ways he would start to communicate with me is through art and through painting.
Yeah. So it sounds like your desire to connect with people in that way and like help them to be better communicators, help them to access whatever resources they need extends beyond simply work for you. Like this is life.
Everything. If I don't feel a motivation or a glitter or it makes me smile or it doesn't make me see how, like, the work will continue without me, then there's no motivation. Sometimes people could be get motivated by status or job title or pay, and I'm just like, I'm definitely motivated by how I'm supporting people, how I'm impacting my community, and not even this idea of legacy, but that collective support, like this generational growth.
Mm,
Am I leaving my family better
yeah.
the way my grandparents and my mother left my family better?
I think we very much align in that way. I'm always thinking about what the future holds and when I am no longer here. It's
Yeah.
not that I want people to sing my praises simply to just be like, "Oh, Danielle was amazing." But I don't mind if you sing my praises because I've had an impact on you, right? Like that's the thing that I want. I want to be an impactful person. I want to make someone else's journey a little bit easier, especially when I think about like our kids, etc. Like they shouldn't have to face some of the hardships that we have had to face, right?
Yeah,
The same as our parents and our grandparents. I'm like, I want to
soft
make
life.
the road, yeah, a little bit easier for you.
I love the concept of soft life, and I don't know if you've
Yeah.
embraced it,
I
but
am working on my soft life right now. It is challenging. Let me tell you that, but I'm working on it.
it and then, I've went to an event recently, and they were talking about balancing strength and stillness at the same time, um, and how some times of your life requires more strength and sometimes requires more stillness, but we can't forget each of those sides.
Yeah.
'Cause
And
we grew up thinking that it all strength, 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 tenacity, tenacity, excellence, excellence.
yeah. Well, and I think that's a challenge also. I'll bring identity back into this as a Black woman. That we are often taught that we are the strong ones. We're supposed to be sort of stoic and always hold up everything in the family, and even when we have burdens to bear, that we are capable of handling it. Now, my take on it is we often have been capable of handling things,
Yeah.
but the challenge for me is we should not have to handle everything. There's a difference there. And so, and I kind of want to hear your definition of soft life because I will say this is not something I think a lot of maybe Gen Xers have heard and above, but it is definitely something a lot of the younger people are talking about right now. But like when I think about a soft life, it does not mean that I am no longer working, I am not caring for my community and doing the things I'm supposed to, but it does mean that I get to treat myself, to have rest time, to find joys and pleasure in life that I can't necessarily embrace if I'm just focused on being the strong Black woman, right? That archetype doesn't serve me because it doesn't allow me to be fully myself.
A big thing that I've been saying is, like, "I'm a strong Black woman, I'm not a dog." Like, please don't run me, like, please don't, like, put me into fights that I don't need to
Yeah.
be part of, like, it's so tough, and so for me, the concept of the soft life is, like, how am I treating myself? How am I loving myself so that I'm able to be the best mom, daughter, wife,
Mhm.
um educator, like, what are the things that I'm doing to, um, fill my own cup so that I'm
Yeah.
able to be the best version of myself? Sometimes, like, I would grow up with this idea that you always had to have a hustle. I was it was ingrained in me to say, "Never have one job,
Yeah.
always have multiple jobs."
That's that
Or
Caribbean spirit coming through again because I know that storyline.
yes, like, holding multiple jobs while also being a caretaker with this
Yeah.
which is a full-time job, like, there's so much research in history that talks about women as caretakers and how, they were discouraged from even being stay-at-home moms in time periods that's crucial for
Mm.
early childhood education, like, between 0 to 5, to be honest, like, you should feel empowered and supported to take care of your children at home, but people are often that is completely there's so much oversight to that. It's completely normal for us to work and pay bills, all just to give all the money back to the role that you should have been supporting.
Ooh, that is a mouthful. I'll say this, I'm in favor of people making the choices they need to for their families.
Yeah.
But I also hear in what you're saying is that many people don't feel like they have a choice. It's like, I have to get back into the office. And we know, again, from research, there are many women, um, and regardless of like marital status or any of that, that if they leave for an extended period at work, that they're not taken seriously, right? You can't get that promotion because, oh, you're a mom now, so your focus is only going to be on your kids. You're not going to care about what's happening here. Or while you were out, we gave this role that you had previously been doing to another colleague. And so like we're penalized for that. But then on the financial side, so again, whether you're a single mother or a married mother, it's still challenging financially because people are just they're not making enough in a lot of cases to have someone stay at home, and yet
Yes.
dollar you get is right back out the door, right? You're paying for childcare.
I realized that for 3 years, I was spending, after taxes, 3,000 more on childcare than I was taking home per year. I was in the negative
Yeah,
just to be a career woman, and I was like, "What's happening?
yeah. So you have to
I need to
pay to stay in
reset."
the workforce. You're paying to stay in the workforce. That's what that comes down to.
Absolutely, and so I think that, that's how hard I was on myself, and that's why I started this, like, idea of, like, be softer, be kind, love yourself, because my son was 3 weeks when I went back to work.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
3 weeks, and he was already born 2 weeks early, so it was as if
Um,
in the corrective age, like, here I was bringing a 5-pound boy to daycare.
yeah. Whew, I hear
That's
you on that.
heavy.
It
That's
is.
heavy.
I went back pretty early. I think I was able to stay out for about 8 weeks, and I feel grateful for that time, but it was a mixed sort of bag for me because I both wanted to go back to work because I am someone who really relishes, like, that intellectual challenge. Like, I want to
Yeah.
be talking to adults, having those kinds of conversations, and I say this as someone who worked in preschools for years, so, like, I really wanna have adult conversations. However, there were things that I feel like I missed, right? Like when you're taking your first steps and I hear about that from your preschool teacher and it's just like your baby
Mm.
walked today and I'm like, "She did? I missed it?" Like that was hard. It was really hard. And so I'm in this place of maybe exploration and wondering like how we can have more options, right? I get that some people are going to have to return to work, myself included in this case. And What are the options where we might allow ourselves to have more fluidity? Maybe it's shorter work schedules or something along those lines so that you still can be present for those critical years you mentioned.
This connects back to digital equity, right? If you are able to find not only this idea of remote positions, because you don't need that, but if you have that flexibility and you're able to take 2 days a week that is not meeting heavy, you're able to work from home for those, and then your child can be part-time, maybe you could have more of those opportunities,
Yeah.
um, but also, you might not miss those steps if you know how to access the parent portal.
That's right, right. Well, we didn't have cameras. I'm not going to date myself exactly, but we did not have cameras in childcare at that point in time. But you're absolutely right. Like it changes the very nature of. So, one, could I get on a camera and watch what's happening in the childcare center? Could I find remote work? Could I apply for a position that allows me for different types of economic stability that I might not have? Beforehand. Like there's so many things that could come up from a digital equity standpoint that just improve lives. They improve lives. So I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. Let me ask you sort of like a final question around digital equity. But like as you're looking ahead, what possibilities specifically around digital equity are you excited about?
I am excited about employers and nonprofit organizations coming together um, to realize that everyone deserves the chance um, to have digital skills. Because now employers are just like, wait, it will benefit me too if they're given this chance. Um, my mother worked in the cafeteria for like 6 or 7 years before she was able to train and get her digital skills, and um, that allowed her to apply for jobs, become a paraprofessional, and actually have a better position within the Boston Public Schools. And now she's been there for, I think, almost 23, 24 years. Um, but people deserve a chance. And so I'm excited about the chance that people are given. And I believe once they have ownership over their own digital journey, that the chance will give them more opportunities. And as we mentioned before, that economic growth, that generational growth, um, people have it. They just need the opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. That's a beautiful way to close out. Um, is there anything, and I ask every guest this, is there anything that's coming up in your company and your business that you want to share more about with the audience?
Yes. So, as of January, we're going full on the portal. Um, we had a good like 8 months where we were balancing with our other modules like on like Google Slides. Um, and now we are fully going digital. And we're excited about the portal. We're excited that more people are going to have access, and we're excited that um, we're going to be partnering with so many more people who want to um, provide those digital skills too.
Love it. So, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
Um, you can get in touch with me, yes, on LinkedIn. I think that that is the best place, and I think that we'll be able to share that link as well. Um, and that's the most accessible, centralized place. I wouldn't be like, "Here's my email."
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will make sure that your LinkedIn profile is in the show notes. Maria, I really, really appreciate just all of the wisdom that you've dropped today. And then also your willingness to just share a little bit more about your personal journey and your artwork, which is stunning. So I hope that people are able to connect with you on multiple fronts. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the platform and the work that you do. It is very, very meaningful.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. It makes a big difference in helping us grow this community. And if you're looking for coaching or resources to take your cultural awareness to the next level, visit us at culture-principles.com/coaching. And remember, where curiosity leads, connection follows. Be well.